Long-time fans of our channel know we have some very particular feelings toward Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi. Namely, we think he was a sociopath who didn't understand or care about other people in the slightest. In some ways, however, Mundi wasn't just born like this. His emotionlessness was a byproduct of his Jedi upbringing and his heritage. You see, Mundi was a Cerean, a sentient species native to the planet Cerea in the Mid-Rim, and they were oddballs at best, authoritarians at worst. The Cereans and their civilization were a great example of things looking darker the deeper you look, and so, in today's video, we'll be taking a dive into their culture, history, and the terrible ways they kept it all up.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Straight up, the Cereans were easily distinguished by their massive cone-shaped heads. Their skulls easily reached 20 centimeters past their foreheads, which gave them just enough free real estate to fit their big, wrinkly brains, which were sort of the Cereans' thing. Their massive noggins were binary, which meant that they could do two complex things at once. For example, a human can focus on solving just one puzzle with our inferior singular brain, but a Cerean could set each half of their brain to think about a different puzzle, solving two at once. That said, both parts could be set on the same problem, which made them capable of solving issues and processing information incredibly quickly. They also had an incredible capacity for meditation and focus. Aside from their big heads, the only other major biological difference they had to humans was their second heart, which helped pump enough blood to supply their superior brains. Cereans could even grow hair like humans did, unlike other near-human species like the Twi'leks. That said, the Cereans' brains did hold them back somewhat. The rest of their physical structure hadn't evolved to cope with such a heavy load on top of their spine, resulting in frequent back pain. It also impeded their reflex a little. Even though Cereans trained frequently and martial arts was a big part of their culture, they simply lacked the physical ability to be as agile as humans due to their disproportionate anatomy. But this brainy alien species was most known for one other thing, and it wasn't good. In general, if a country wants to have a healthy population growth, they want to aim for a birth rate ratio of males to females that's roughly equal. The closer these numbers are, the more chances for the population to grow without inbreeding. Cerea apparently didn't get this memo because their male to female birth ratio was abysmal. For every male born on Cerea, there were 20 females. And if that wasn't enough, Cereans were a sexually dimorphic species, which means there were major biological differences between males and females. In the Cereans' case, that meant males aged much faster than females. So not only were there not enough males to go around, but they also died much sooner. This was, of course, pretty terrible for any civilization that doesn't want to go extinct. Cereans addressed this issue with polygamy. The few males they had were expected to take multiple wives and have as many children as they could. This even included Jedi, which was a unique exception made to that pesky no attachments rule. Male Cerean Jedi were allowed to have wives back on their homeworld and reproduce, as it was crucial to their species continuing to survive. Despite their superior cognitive abilities, Cereans weren't more force sensitive than the average human. Cereans became both Jedi and Sith depending on circumstance, but their species skewed mostly toward the light side. There's sources to suggest that Cereans could use each half of their binary brains to simultaneously use both the light and the dark side, but if you've been around long enough, you know what we think about this kind of grey approach to the Force. So far, you're probably thinking that they sound wonderful. High cognition probably resulted in a wonderful sort of people, right? Well, you're not wrong, but you're also not totally right. Because remember, Mundi got it from somewhere, and it wasn't just the Jedi. As one might expect, a society of people who emphasized problem solving, higher thinking, and meditation were generally pretty peaceful. For the most part, this was true of the Cereans. They were generally very calm people who cared about being rational and analytical about problems that occurred. They also emphasized philosophy, peace, and creating a society that could exist in harmony with nature. To better protect their beautiful homeworld of Cerea, the Cereans drastically limited the use of technology on their planet. While off-world technology wasn't outright banned, it was confined to outsider citadels. These were gigantic city structures built by off-worlder immigrants who had moved to Cerea. Although the Cereans weren't fond of them, part of their agreement with the Galactic Republic was that off-worlders were allowed on their world, and this was the compromise they made. Foreigners and their technology were restricted to these city structures, but outside them, Cereans lived in a very low-tech society. Technology was banned, especially the kind that could pollute the environment, like speeders. Cerean society overall was incredibly traditionalist. Not only did they reject progress and technology, but they emphasized traditional daily rituals that maintained a common spirit and promoted their values. Meditation was an incredibly important part of these daily rituals. Kasha crystals, a specialized focusing tool, were used as meditation aids to help Cereans reach the deepest form of meditation they could, devoid of all distractions. These crystals were so helpful, Cerean Jedi often included them in their lightsabers to help them focus during combat. Martial arts was another means for the Cereans to embrace and live through their culture. While they did learn how to fight, a huge emphasis was placed on ceremonial kata, stylized fighting dances that followed a rigid structure. They also incorporated the Cheyenne, a traditional curved sword, as part of these kata. In a way, this resembles Wushu Kung Fu's modern ceremonial application rather than actual combat preparation. Their traditionist values also carried over to their naming traditions. Just like Master Ki-Adi-Mundi, all Cereans' names were made up of 3 parts. These came from their parents' and grandparents' names and were a way of continuing a family tradition. When it came to grandparents, since male Cereans essentially had a harem of wives, they considered the male and his bond wife, or his primary wife. She was the actual woman of the household, while other women were considered honor wives. Due to the overprevalence of women, Cerean society was matriarchal. They were governed by a council of elders led by a president who made decisions based on the advice of the remaining council members. This system, however, and Cerean society in general, had a major flaw. In the end, our criticism of Cerean society mirrors our criticism of Ki-Adi-Mundi himself. In the past, we tore him down because he was a haughty, arrogant, and judgmental person who believed he was better, smarter, and wiser than everyone around him. Mundi embodied everything wrong with the Jedi Council because he thought he was right and never allowed any room for doubt. This was essentially Cerean society in a nutshell. Cereans, especially the older ones, were so attached to their values and ideals that they didn't allow any room for growth or change. This was an even bigger problem because it was the elders who called the shots, and the young had no way of making changes in their communities. Before the invasion of Naboo, this tension actually led to a generational dispute on Cerea between the elders and the younger Cereans. The younger generation had finally rebelled and was demanding access to everyday technology the rest of the galaxy took for granted, while the elders were refusing to even entertain the thought. In the end, Mundi himself quelled the unrest by finding the instigator, a Chivon named Effant Mon, and taking care of him. We have to point out, however, that the Cereans dealt with the issue not by encouraging dialogue and compromise, but by essentially beheading the movement for change and expecting everyone to toe the line again. This isn't a great example of a democratic or flexible society, and inflexible societies eventually crumble. The Cereans didn't quite get to see that. During the Clone Wars, their system was attacked when Tar Seer, the Cerean Jedi watchman in charge of the system, was called away. The CIS took the opportunity to attack, killing over 1 million in the Battle of Cerea. This was devastating to an already fragile population, and following these events, the Cereans retreated even more into their own world, withdrawing from galactic affairs. So, that was our take on the brainy but inflexible Cereans. What do you think? Do you think Mundi's attitude was because of his Cerean culture, his Jedi upbringing, or an unfortunate combination of both? What alien species would you like us to cover next? And what would your rating on the Cereans be as a whole? And what would you rate the lore of the Cereans out of 10? Let us know all that and more in the comment section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.